In this video, we're talking about the identity shifts you need to make to believe that you can bring in 100K cash months into your business. My name is Dielle Charron. I'm the founder of For the 23%. 23% of business owners are women of color, and we're here to grow that number. So if you're anything like me, 100K a month sounds absolutely insane. I was a social worker making $2,500 a month, struggling to pay my bills. My credit was all jacked up. I was borrowing money from my then boyfriend, then fiance, now husband. And I just thought that this is how it was. My parents struggle with money, so then I struggled with money, and I didn't believe that I could ever make enough to actually feel safe. I just thought this was kind of my destiny. This is how it was. You work really hard just to barely get by, and that's what life was, especially as a Black woman. But it wasn't until I made all of these shifts that I actually decided to believe that I'm not a fixed person. My destiny was not stuck. I was actually in control of it way more than I thought. So the first shift when it comes to your identity is looking at the definition of identity. So what are the thoughts you need to think about yourself regardless of the circumstance? So regardless of what your bank account looks like, regardless of what you do in your 9-to-5 job, regardless of where you came from, what are the thoughts you think and believe about yourself regardless of all of those circumstances? And you will start to feel delusional. I remember when I was a social worker and I wanted to become an online coach, an online life coach, I thought it was absolutely insane. It felt like I was wearing a hat that didn't fit my head. It felt so uncomfortable. I had to decide that I needed to believe things about myself that did not match my circumstances, that did not match my outward reality. This is actually the laws of manifestation, where you're thinking thoughts, even though they don't match your reality, but those thoughts are what influences your outward reality, not the other way around. So deciding to think and believe things that did not match your reality is the first step in changing your identity. The second step when it comes to changing your identity is realizing what's optional and what's not optional. I call this the physics of optionality, where you have to go into things thinking, this isn't optional. I will become a millionaire. I will become a 6-figure owner. I will make 6 figures a month. This isn't optional. Showing up in my business isn't optional. Working to help my clients get better results is not optional. Creating content, even though I think it's cringe or only a couple hundred people are watching, that's not optional. A lot of times we don't have the identity we want. We don't have the belief we want because we're putting too many things on the table. We're 1 foot in and we're 1 foot out, and we're not claiming who we actually are and that there's no other options. I remember when I was working my 9-to-5 job, I was stuck constantly thinking, okay, should I quit? Should I not? Should I go get my PhD? Should I go get a promotion? Should I not? And it wasn't until I decided it's not optional. I will be leaving my 9-to-5 job. I'm going to keep having to ask for time off. I'm going to keep having to max out my salary. I'm going to keep having to give my time away from this 9-to-5 job, no matter if it's a fancy 6-figure tech job, no matter if it's being a lawyer or a doctor, quote unquote, making more money. I believe that it's not optional to be an entrepreneur and to control my freedom and to control my wealth. So deciding to burn the boats, to go forward, to make the hard decision, and that your success is a requirement and it's not optional. So the third way to shift your identity to believe that you can have 100K cash months is believing that you are good at the things that you think that you're not good at. One of the fastest way to kill your dreams is to say that you're not good at something. You're not good at content. It's just not for you. You're not that type of person, as if you're a fixed person. You're not a fixed person. You can expand. When I first was starting my business online, I thought that I was just not a charismatic person. I thought that I wasn't pretty enough for social media. I didn't have the nails and the hair and the photos and the aesthetic. I have natural hair. I don't have on any eyelashes in this video. I was constantly telling myself that I was not pretty enough or good enough for social media. So I had to switch those thoughts and say, okay, well, how can I make social media for me? Where was I comparing myself when I didn't need to be? Where was I telling myself that I had to fit this mold when that necessarily wasn't true? So instead of saying I'm not good at social media, I decided to say, how will social media work for me? What are the ways that social media is easy for me? So I would literally get online and do something called bonnet chronicles, where it was easy for me to show up in my bonnet before I would go to my 9-to-5 job and give value and share tips. And so I made it a whole thing. I made it kind of like this skit with me and my audience, and it got traction. And so now I don't show up in my bonnet, but it was just the concept of I am good at this. I can try this, but it may not look like everybody else, but I at least want to put my best foot forward. I've had to do this even at the $1 million level. I told myself for years that I'm not good at ads, but this year I finally took control over my ads. I let go of my ads team, and I've been learning ads, and I've been killing it and being so successful with it. Stop saying that you're bad at things and ask yourself, how can you do it in a way that works for you? The fourth thing you need to believe is that you are not a fixed person. Your personality is not fixed. Who you are is not fixed. If you have ADHD, if you come from a certain background, your success does not matter or depend on any of those things. If you work a 9-to-5 job, if you don't come from a lot of money, none of those things matter when it comes to your success. It's one of my favorite things about entrepreneurship. So one of the ways I flip this identity is I say, okay, well, how can my limitation be my superpower? How can my ADHD be my superpower? How can my background as a social worker and no business experience be my superpower? Where can you tie that into your story, but where does it not have to limit you? If you think about all the successful entrepreneurs in the world, there is somebody successful with your quote unquote limitation. There is somebody successful with your quote unquote limiting belief. There is someone successful that went through that hard thing that you also went through. They were able to overcome it. They were able to use that as their superpower. For me, I have a ton of anxiety. I'm an anxious girly. I will use that as my superpower. So I know that I'm very detail oriented. I know that I do things with intentionality. I know that I put out high quality work, but I have to watch myself to make sure that I don't turn it into perfectionism. So instead of saying that you have a limitation or that you have something that's stopping you from success, where can you flip it to your superpower? And then the last strategy to creating high 100K cash months is believing that you can hold that level of responsibility. I always think about the quote, to whom much is given, much is required. If you want a lot of money to pour into your business, you have to believe that you can handle that level of responsibility. You can handle the responsibility of a lot of clients. You can handle the responsibility of talking to people online for free through your content. You can handle that level of responsibility. The people that make the most amount of money have been able to hold that level of responsibility over and over again at different and higher levels. So instead of saying, oh no, there's no way I can have a team. Oh no, there's no way that I can serve hundreds of clients at a time. Oh no, there's no way that I have the capacity. How can you actually expand your capacity? How can you be a better teacher? How can you create better content? How can you be more vulnerable with your audience? Instead of shying away from the responsibility, I actually want you to double down. You've learned to handle the responsibility of signing one client. Why can't you handle the responsibility of signing 10 or signing 100? So again, don't shy away from the responsibility. You actually want it. You want to be the person that calls the shots. You want to be able to be the person that has control. You want to be the person that has the massive influence to help people. So responsibility isn't a bad thing. The most influential people have the most amount of responsibility. All right, here are all the identity shifts that I had to make, that you're going to have to make if you want to hit 100K cash months. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.